Okay, welcome to our next episode of Challenge in Class. I'm very excited to present our next guest. It's a former student, someone that just graduated not too long ago,
Yep,
I assume.
2024.
Okay, and a filmmaker and just a really genuine person. So, Rohan, thank you very much. Fist bump.
Fist bump.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much for being on the show. I just want to get right into it because we have talked a little bit off camera, and I think you have a lot of interesting things to share about your experience and just your perspective in general. And so I'm excited for you to share that with everybody else. So, first things first, we know that you have some experience making film. We know that you are just recently graduated. But I was hoping that you could walk us through um, what it's felt like to be on your first professional set in Canada. And if you can speak to that a bit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was a very interesting experience because I have been a filmmaker in India for the past 7 years. I started on my first film set in 2015 and was working all the way up until the time I left for Canada, which is 2023.
Okay.
I worked on a mixed bag of things, features, corporate films, just the works. And my first filming experience in Canada was quite different, I must say. And that's exactly what I came here to learn because the film industry in India is quite huge, but it's still disorganized.
Well, a lot of people here, I mean, I'm very like ignorant and naive in a way because
Okay.
when I think of films in India, the first thing my mind goes to is Bollywood,
Definitely
to be
is.
honest with you. So I'm assuming it's more vast than that.
Yes, it is. There's different states in India, as you know. So
Right.
every state has their own film industry, so to speak.
Very interesting.
Every region has their own film industry,
Right,
and
right.
collectively, there are almost 700 features produced in India every year.
Wow.
Some of them see the light of day, some of them don't.
Okay.
But collectively, that's the number
Right.
that I know of. And then you can imagine how many short films and other stuff gets
Yes, of
produced
course.
as well. So even it being a vast industry, it sort of like developed an organic way of going about things, which is not necessarily written down or theorized as it is over here in Canada. And that's the biggest difference I noticed. And I knew about that. I knew a bit about that listening to podcasts and watching films about, and watching the behind the scenes of films
Right.
that happen here. And that's exactly what I wanted to learn and maybe take away back home.
Right.
If I ever get the chance to go back and make films,
Wow.
is to get the film industry organized in a way that the person who's at the bottom of the pyramid is able to make an honest living and have a sustainable lifestyle, even if they work on films, because they are an artist in their own right.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So, what are some things that you feel like you didn't know, sort of coming into our film industry here versus what you experienced in India?
Well, I I still don't know what I don't know at the moment. I'm still
Yeah.
learning.
Of course.
Um, the biggest difference I would say was the strength of the unions that are there in Toronto or in the Canadian film industry.
Okay.
And
I think it's like a North American thing, to be honest with you.
yes,
ACTRA, I think we
yes,
discussed.
that's
Yeah.
correct. I'm still learning about them.
Right.
I learned about the DGC, I learned about ACTRA, and I learned that there's a lot of regulations that go around filming with people, filming with members from these unions, and
Right.
for all the right reasons.
Mhm.
Even though they can be a bit cumbersome at times, which I felt on one of my film sets, I felt that some of the things can be a bit more organic, but they were there in place for a reason because some people might not have been treated properly. And that's not the way you want, you don't want to promote that kind of attitude on a film set.
100%. Yeah. I can wholeheartedly understand that. So, I mean, so here's the thing. We discussed a lot actually about people's experiences immigrating from another country to, let's just say, the West.
Yeah.
And how sometimes the expectation that they have and the reality are not like the two are not the same.
Yes.
And so we also talked about how sometimes when you come from certain places of the world and you move to the West, you end up having to sort of retrain
Yes.
like re-enroll in school even though you may know the things. So I'm just wondering, because you did just recently graduate, but
Yes.
at the same time you came with a background. You came here with a background in film.
Yes.
So what I would like to ask you is, what was your educational experience in India before you came here, and then how would you compare that to what you experienced here in film school?
Well, I'd just like to say off the bat that it wasn't really comparable because I was a student of design back home,
Okay,
and then turned into a filmmaker.
got it.
And when I came here, I came to study filmmaking or storytelling in different platforms.
Hmm.
So it wasn't a film course per se. So I had high expectations from it because
Right,
I wanted to learn something that I didn't know and something that I hadn't practiced in 7 years.
right.
Because filmmaking was something I knew. Whatever way I learned, even if it was disorganized, I know how to create an image, and
Correct.
I'd learned that through the years of practicing in the film industry. When I came here, I really wanted to dive deeper into aspects of storytelling in different forms of media and how I can adapt them from, let's say, a book into a film, into a game, maybe, and just see an overview of that. But I sort of got introduced to a very basic course when I came here because I guess students who came for that course were at different skill levels. And I was deeply disappointed that they didn't take the time to figure out that there were students who were coming in with a lot of experience and also cater to them and not just people who were beginning because you're in a way underestimating all the students together. And you're just trying to tell them that, hey, let me handhold you into this world and show you everything on a surface level.
Hmm.
And let's not dive deep because you're not ready for it.
So there's an assumption that's being made.
It is.
And it's funny because on one of my earlier episodes, I talk about this kind of challenge that a teacher has. And this is just at an elementary school level. So it's not even at a higher learning level. But when you have a bunch of students that come in at different levels,
Yeah.
um, as a teacher, and again, I can't speak for every teacher, but for myself, I tend to err on the side of the student that doesn't know as much. Whereas a student that does have a high level of knowledge, they end up almost being forgotten in some senses,
Yep.
because I want to make sure that that kid that doesn't know anything gets brought up to speed.
Yes.
The difference in your situation, I think, and also the frustration too, is that you're paying for this,
Yes.
right? So
Through the nose.
exactly. So you're paying quite a bit of money for this, and you're feeling like you're not getting the quality of education that you feel like you paid for.
Absolutely.
Is what I'm understanding.
Absolutely.
And so, like, what? How did that manifest itself? What would happen when you would you actually ever approach the teacher about this, or the instructor, or the professor, or voice your concerns, or ask certain questions? And if so, how was this perceived?
Well, we tried that. We tried writing emails and tried off the bat trying to get into a space where I would say complain. We did complain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to be candid about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And we were given a soft threat of expulsion. Not directly to us, but
Wow.
there was a soft threat. There was an indication made that you are you have been given the privilege of coming to an institution here in Canada.
Right.
So you should just keep quiet and
And accept.
go back to your studies and accept what we give you.
Wow. Why do you think that the way you approached the powers that be, let's say, with your concerns, felt to them like you were being disruptive?
Well, maybe I'm a little rough around the edges. I speak whatever comes to my mind, and I could have taken a softer approach, which was my first learning. That
Difference in culture, how you
difference
might
in culture.
approach things like
Yes,
this. Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So looking back, do you think you would have taken a course like this? Do you think you would have followed the same trajectory that you had?
Most definitely not.
Okay. And
Yes.
have you thought about, like, reflected on maybe what you would have done differently?
I would have chosen a different course
Okay.
or a different college.
Right.
Maybe done a little more research.
Right.
Maybe invested some more time in talking to more people, or even just come here for a vacation first and just come and spoken to people in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
ask them a few questions,
Mm-hmm.
and then get into that course.
Interesting. So, okay. So obviously, you've spent not as much time in North American institution as you have back in India.
That's correct.
Having said that, What is your opinion of higher education in your experience so far? Because what I'm understanding or what I'm getting is that this was more of a compliance thing.
Yes.
You know, we're not trying to make you super competent in this area. We just want you to follow what we say. And I
Yes.
can be wrong.
We can give you an overview, but that's about it.
Right.
That's what they want to say. But before like I get into critiquing something, I always like to say something positive about it.
Yes, absolutely.
I believe that there is the infrastructure, it exists, and it has been created, and it's beautiful. I love the fact that that sort of space was given to us, physical space
Right.
given to us to explore and call our own while creating something, because
Right.
we might not have that kind of luxury back home. Uh, that being said, uh, students, if they get into an artistic pursuit like me back home, there's a lot of avenues. There are a lot of institutions that challenge the students to get better, and I guess this one was not one of them.
Mm. Can you dive deeper into that? What do you mean? What's an example of how like you might get challenged back home to get better?
Yeah, I mean, just it's a simple story. Like when I was young, uh, when I was taken to the swimming pool for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
there was no compliance per se. I was just thrown into the deep end. So I
Wow.
had to learn from swimming from the deep end, crying my way, getting out of the water just to survive.
Right.
And I would prefer doing that where I was given a challenge to make an experimental film, go talk to strangers, just dive into the deep end, and then sort of find my way into just whatever the shallow waters are.
Right.
Because this is your safe space, this is your safety net. You're in school, you're supposed to experiment, you're supposed to go crazy about it, and you're not supposed to be safe and politically correct inside the school, because that's the space where you expand your mind,
Mm-hmm.
and not build walls around it.
Wow. There's so much that I can take from what you just said, because just thinking about the conversations I've had with various people, how like a lot of our students here struggle with that. Like if you give them something that's open-ended
Hmm.
and you say go explore,
Yeah.
go just get messy,
Yes.
essentially, they
Yes.
really, really have a hard time with that, is what I'm finding,
Yes.
because of the fact that our education system, in large part, is very like linear and
Yes.
very compartmentalized.
Yes.
And so when there's like overlap or where there's gray area, I find that our students really, really struggle with that. But out of that, is where creative things come into play. So I think your experience is very interesting. And I think this is where we would like to have education stay at, because this exploring does take place. But as an educator, I can say that this takes place mostly in the younger grades. And I would
Okay.
say grade 4, grade 5, where they're, or sorry, grade 4, grade 5. I mean, 4 or 5 years old,
Okay.
where students are able to just what we have, what's called play-based learning. So they're just able to explore different topics without the pressure of grades, without the pressure of somebody telling them, no, it has to be done this way,
Exactly.
right? So there's clearly value in that. And we see that here at this level as well, or in this part of the world as well. The problem is that it's very short-lived,
Yes.
I would say, right? So it's just very interesting to compare the two. And so what are some of the basic things, like having, we say hindsight is 2020, right?
Yes.
But what are some of the basic things that you wish the program that you had went to had covered?
Huh. Well,
Maybe things, okay, sorry, just
yeah,
to
please.
piggyback, like maybe things that you learned by doing. So maybe things that you had learned once you were on your first set here that they had never really discussed with you in the classroom setting.
Well, off the bat, I would think that they should have just shot a film with us.
So you're saying you did not have an opportunity to shoot
We
film.
did have an opportunity to shoot film on our own, so we were sent to make a film.
Oh, I
We
see.
we did not have teachers or professionals from the industry present with us while we shot the film.
So when you were shooting these films, who were you like? Did you have to find the person yourself to connect with? Like, how would you find a film shoot, if that makes sense.
I mean, we would create our own small sets. So
Oh,
we
I
would be the
see. So
director
you,
and the
I
producers, and just
understand.
amongst us as students, we'd do that. Uh, I would like to speak to this in a way that when I was teaching the same class as a film production teacher.
Okay, also didn't know that. So that's interesting. Okay, so you
Yes.
clearly have a much different perspective
Yes.
because you have actually taught a course that's
Exactly.
similar.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I would love to know.
Yes. So the production course was called guided fiction.
Okay.
And I taught that at my alma mater in Pune.
Yep.
And the way I taught the students was that I told them, write a script, something that excites you.
Right.
Don't worry about the production value. Don't worry about how we're going to shoot it.
Right.
Just create the universe.
Right.
And then let's get into filming it and try to film it the best way possible.
Right.
And when they did, they wrote a horror story about a car in some getting lost in some jungle with a ghost truck involved. And they said, "Sir, how are you going to produce this?" I said, "No problem." We went out. I took help from a couple of villagers out there, and I had a close friend of mine who helped bring everything together because he lives there. And we sort of filmed through the night with these students. And they were shivering, they were out in the cold, but they were so excited about the entire process that they gained a lot from that one course.
And just to add, even if they weren't excited from the process, this would have been their opportunity to be like, maybe this isn't for me. Because they're actually in the field, actually doing the work. And I think, again, there's just so much overlap between what I'm talking with other people, because we had an interview not too long ago where we spoke with somebody and just talked about the value of experiential learning.
Yes.
And how theory will only take you so far.
Yes.
And a lot of our students, again, this is something they're struggling with, where they're graduating from these high schools, colleges, and universities, and they don't know what it means to work. And they have studied a particular field for so long, and they feel very well versed in it, only to find out that when they actually get onto the field, so to speak, that this is not for them.
Yes.
Right? And so many of us are in these jobs where, again, maybe we started with that passion, and then after a decade or so, like, we felt like we wanted to change, but we stuck to it. Which is to say that, like, it's important for us to know what we're getting into before we actually decide this is what we want our career path to do.
But how do we do that?
Exactly. Well, now I can understand your frustration in going to this course, or sorry, going and doing this degree and feeling like, okay, this is going to really help me on my career path, but not actually having a chance to actually doing it. Just sitting in a classroom doing a lot of talking.
Sorry to cut you short. You don't learn film production from PDF. You don't learn film production from YouTube videos. If I had to have a teacher read from a PDF and teach me film production, I mean, I know how to read. If somebody had to show me a YouTube video to learn film production, I can do that at home. The entire classroom was an email.
No, there's so much there. And thinking about, I'm just connecting everything you're saying to the state of education right now. We have things like Chat GPT. We have all these forms of AI. And what it means is that the teacher's role is now going to have to be different.
Yes.
Teachers have to pivot. So just like what you explained earlier, the mentorship piece now seems like it's going to be really important. Because I was in shock when you said that your first film shoot you went to, there was no industry professionals, there was no mentorship, there was no educators there. It's just like you left to go like figure it out. And then if you're doing something incorrect, who's there to sort of give you that feedback? It feels like you're going to have to do the whole thing, and then once you come up with this final product, now you have all that feedback. But it would have been nice to have that feedback while you were in the midst of it.
Exactly.
Like, I think about coaching a sport. Like, if I'm coaching basketball, like, I'm going to tell the player right there in that moment, no, you're shooting it wrong. I'm not going to wait till the end of the game after they've shot the ball 50 times to say, hey, you're shooting it wrong, right? So, yeah, there's a lot of things that we're getting wrong. And then the other piece is just, it's sad to say it, but it feels like there's a little bit of financial sort of just wanting to collect money
Yeah.
to put it simply or to put
Yes.
it plainly. So not focusing on the individual or the student or whether what they're getting out of this,
Yes.
but rather, are we making money?
And the fact of the matter is, some of these courses are shutting down now because they're cutting down on international students. So these courses cannot even sustain themselves.
Exactly. So that's very interesting too.
Yes.
So it almost seems like they're like waiting for people that are not well versed in what they're offering. Essentially, it sounds like a cash grab. That's what I
Yes.
would call it.
100%.
Okay, like I'm trying to like find the right
Let's
words
not
to say
sugarcoat
it,
it. No.
but yeah, that's essentially what it's sounding like to me. So I just want to know: do you think that this disconnect is a systemic issue? And it's hard for you to say because you've only
It
been
is.
to one school. I don't know if you have many friends that have had a similar experience or family for that matter. But do you think that it's a systemic issue or do you think that it's just simply bad luck?
I have a small anecdotal experience because my roommates, they did 2 courses here when they came here.
Yeah.
So they did one course with me, and
Okay.
then they went ahead and did another course in a different institution.
Okay.
It was completely different. They had all the hands-on learning they needed. They were
Okay.
taken to studios. They were shown light boxes, how to switch the lights on and off. I mean,
Right.
that's also
Sorry,
something
I
you
don't know anything about that.
So, I mean, a light box I wouldn't know anything about that either because I wasn't taught that. But
Right.
it's something that you would need on a professional set or inside a studio. And
Got it.
even having the knowledge of that, or even just going on a field trip to the studio, made so much more of a difference than it would for me.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Yep.
That's really interesting. So, are you open to maybe trying some of the institutions that your friends went to, or where do you find yourself now after having graduated and feeling kind of like not satisfied with the quality of education that you received?
Well, I'm a pretty positive person in that sense. I learned a lot from my peers.
Mm-hmm.
I had fortunately had 35 classmates, and some of them who are now my best friends.
Oh,
So
wow.
I wouldn't trade that experience for anything else
Okay.
because I always learn by observing, thanks to my teachers. So even a bad experience can be turned into a good one. So I wouldn't trade that for anything else.
Right.
But what I'm trying to do right now is build a career in a way where I try to learn from people while meeting them, volunteering at different spaces, interning, and that's what's increased my knowledge over the 1.5 years that I've been here.
And I think that's a great strategy, to be quite frank. I'm just comparing it to my experience as a teacher. In that first couple of years, I was just very quiet, just taking everything in and learning and taking in as much as I possibly could.
Yes.
And again, for those of us that are new to any profession, I think that's a useful tip as well. Just to not come in there acting like you know everything, but really to have a sense of humility, I guess,
Yes.
and be willing to learn and ask questions and
100%.
make mistakes and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I want to sort of turn the corner a little bit.
Yes.
Still on school, but I want to talk about some of the work that you did while you were in the program that you just graduated from. So we talked a little bit about your thesis, and I would like for you to share more about what you explored.
Yes. So my thesis project was essentially the final product was a website, which I wanted to create for artists and learners who wanted sort of a parallel style of education, who would like to explore education or art through different forms of media, like audio, video, AR, VR, and you would have the traditional textbooks for people who learn from text, essentially. Um, I tried to set it up as a very different project. It turned out to be a different project. I'm still working on it in a way, but what I realize is that every art form is sort of an ocean. And like an ocean, there are different kind of currents. There's different boats that take you so far, and you have to learn about everything on the beach and also in the ocean from scratch about every art form, even though they meet somewhere in the middle. So I was trying to sort of create a map for myself and for people who would come into this field so that they can go step by step into the ocean that art form is.
Right. And it's an opportunity for them to try different things out.
Yes.
We often try to reach kids through art as well. I think art is like a universal language that a lot of people speak. And it makes sense that, some of our most uh, lucrative jobs involve the arts.
Yes.
Right? Because I think that humans need it quite a bit. So how do you feel like that thesis impacted your views that you have on teaching and on learning, because you are in fact a teacher
Yes.
and a student.
That's an
Right?
excellent question
Yeah.
because when you also spoke with me last week, it I sort of feel that when we talk about theoretical learning or classroom learning and how the effect of technology or the role of technology is going to be played into this, I believe that content creators can bring a lot for the teachers because the teachers should not be struggling to do this on their own. They should be paired up with content creators or people who understand the technology that way and sort of bring an immersive experience into the classroom through AR and VR essentially right now because
Can you just to our viewers explain what AR and VR is?
okay, so AR and VR, in my understanding, is augmented reality and virtual reality.
Mm-hmm.
So, augmented reality is using a device to bring in the technology, or it's like simple. It's there. It's available on Amazon right now, where you can just see a product inside your house and how it's fitting, what the size is, what the dimensions are inside your house.
Mm-hmm.
So you can bring that sort of a feature inside the classroom. I've seen that done through a friend of mine. He runs a company in Hyderabad where they would bring tablets for underprivileged children and then use an AR based app and show them different animals from around the world, what sounds they make, and it's sort of it's like the animals right there
It's right
inside
there.
the
It's like a
classroom.
field trip.
It's a field trip inside the classroom. So you can do the same thing.
I'm just hearing about this for the first time. What's wrong with me? Okay. Yeah.
So
Very interesting.
and I was so surprised by the ingenuity because there was a simple piece of paper. It was 2D, and there was a factory drawn on it. And he used the tablet, and the entire factory sprung up to
Stop.
life. And you could see
Oh my
different
God.
parts of the machinery moving, and you could zoom in on something, explain a bit more about it, zoom out. So essentially, getting AR and VR mixed together, you have a classroom where, as I said, like being on set was 1,000 days of being in the classroom. Being one day on set was 1,000 days being in the
Yeah,
classroom.
I believe
You're just
that.
being a fly on the wall there. So
Mhm.
why can you not be a fly on the wall in the classroom
Exactly.
and have the set sprung into life around you?
So I'm gonna sorry, everything you're saying, I'm just comparing it to things, but like something in school that I really struggled with was science.
Yeah.
Like the abstractness of it. Like I can remember being in grade 10, is it chemistry, biology? It doesn't even matter. Anyway,
Yeah.
you can see.
Yeah.
But like this concept of like cells and how those work and what they look like. I was like, what are these little things that they're drawing? But like using your example
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to like zoom into a cell and how that works, like with in the context of like the human body,
Yep.
would be a game changer.
Amazing.
And you might actually have a CISO that's interested in science and
Yep.
maybe pursued a different path, right? Because it was just explained to him or demonstrated in a way that he could actually connect with, right? Rather than that person standing up in the front of the room and just talking at you, or the textbook, read this, which is super boring,
Yeah.
as we know, right?
Hey kids,
So
let's go visit a black hole today.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So even that, very abstract, right? But if you can see it in real life, now I'm super interested now.
Yep. 100%.
Wow. Okay. So, like, yeah. So, this is essentially what this podcast is about, just bringing in new ideas. And for me, that's a really new idea. I did not know that that was a thing. And maybe some people are like, wow, you're like living under a rock. But I did not know that we had the ability to do that yet.
And the whole idea of gamifying learning, right?
Right.
So that also was an aspect of my thesis. How can we gamify learning, just not just AR and VR, but give the student a task inside the AR or VR program to do, so that they get points instead of like having exams. So the gamification solves so many things for so many people. I would go back and learn everything from grade 1 if somebody gives me a game.
And you know what? We see it now. Like, think
Yes.
about just your Candy Crushes,
Yes.
and your little apps or your games that people are on their phones playing. And the reason why they become so addicted to these games is because there are little things that are included in these games. Like, let's say these stars flash up every
Yeah.
time you pass a level, but there's some kind of like dopamine or some kind of reward that you're being given. And we see it with kids too, which is why they're so hooked on the screens.
Yes.
So it makes perfect sense that you would actually use this idea and transfer it to for education.
Yes,
And we
absolutely.
see that, like, there's a couple of gamified apps out there when it comes to math.
True.
Something that comes to mind is something like Khan Academy. But
Yes.
then being able to add in the AR and the VR with it, like, it's an additional tool,
Yes.
you know? And I just think that that's really talking about the future of where education should be,
100%.
really, you know? So thank you for sharing those insights, because that's something that I never even really considered. And so, on that same note of innovation, um, what are your thoughts on students leading this innovation? Because I find that in terms of certain technology, especially when it comes to like media, my students know a lot more than me.
Yes,
And
100%.
I'm just thinking about teachers that are like 5 years away from retiring.
Yeah.
Um, how are they gonna navigate the Chat GPT space, right?
Yes.
So, how do you think that students can help us old folks with this education?
Well, I wouldn't speak more about how, because I'm still figuring that out myself. I talk to my niece or talk to somebody who's younger than me,
Right.
who's so invested in the technology, and they might not be able to say it out loud, or not. They might not be able to make a map for us.
Right.
It's just things that we need to observe and notice. And also, I feel that these kids of today, they were born into a world with technology. They didn't know a world without one.
Yes, exactly.
So I believe that me personally, I'm a bridge to a world which didn't have technology, which did not have the distraction of all
So I'm
these
assuming that
electronics.
when you were born, there was no technology then.
Yes,
Okay.
I was born in 1992,
Okay.
and the first 15 years of my life, there was no technology to this scale.
To
Obviously,
this degree, right.
there was a bit that we were curious about, but I mean, I would eat dust till the age of 6, I
Right.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I wasn't glued behind a screen other than the TV once Pokemon came out. But I believe that we're still the bridge, and we might be the last generation that's the bridge for the students and
Oh my
the
God.
kids of today.
And that's so crazy to think.
Yes,
That
and
is
that's
actually
that's
so
just
crazy.
our role and responsibility to make sure that they're not lost in that universe.
Yeah.
We are the tether, right? So, but then we need to allow them to go and explore that universe so that we can see where it leads us all as a civilization to, because that's the next big step.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I think that the problem is that we're scared.
Yes.
Like, I'm just thinking about my kids. Like, I'm not having them lead me.
I mean, I can say that as not being a parent. That's very easy for me to say.
Right.
I understand where you come from.
But like at the same time, there are some older kids that are very well. My kids are obviously younger, but that are very well versed in this industry. And the problem is that the older folk, in my opinion, are acting as the gatekeepers.
Yes.
So whether it's the ministry or the policymakers or whatever,
Yes.
they're afraid. They're afraid because they don't know, but they're also afraid of the pushback. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. And I feel like the sacrifice is that we end up arguing with kids over the technology and sort of pigeonholing it as a negative thing.
Yes.
Where actually they can use it to transform things. Like the biggest thing right now is everybody's afraid of their job.
Yes.
AI is going to take my job,
Yes.
but nobody's using AI to think about the possibilities. It's just the fear that surrounds it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I always give people this example, like, okay, Facebook might have eliminated some jobs, but how many other jobs did it create? Right? And I just think that we can be very tunnel vision sometimes in the way we think about these things.
Yes.
And it's because we're afraid of the unknown. It's usually how it goes in my experience. And when people can't predict things and they don't know things, they err on the side of fear. And then that sort of stops us from being able to do, great things,
Yeah,
really.
we could innovate with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really unfortunate. But like people like you and some of the advice that you're giving right now, I feel like gives us hope that, we can revamp the way education is looked at, especially the way technology is integrated. So for sure. And I just want
Sorry,
to,
just before we go ahead, I
yeah.
want I don't generally like to comment on policymakers or politicians or educators who are of that scale.
Right.
I'm sure they've done everything that they could do in their life, and they're trying to be the best person they can be. But I would like everyone to stop limiting education into four walls or inside a classroom. We need to think beyond that, because right now we have the tools to think beyond classroom. So it does not always have to be the same old way, because the same old way doesn't exist anymore. The same old world doesn't exist anymore. So we need to think outside of it, beyond it, and just think outside the box. It's just that simple.
It's literally that simple. And some of us are just not willing to do that. We're not willing to let our brains go outside whatever we've been trained or programmed to think.
Yes.
So that's a very important message. What advice would you give to somebody that's considering film school
Yep.
here, and or any creative program, really?
Mm-hmm. I wish I had gotten this advice when I first stepped into the world of filmmaking. Was basically first go and explore what kind of artist you want to be and what kind of voice you want to have, because everything on a film set, everything technical and everything that you can do as a great filmmaker can be learned through the process. But what cannot be learned is to find your own voice, to be the kind of person who other people aspire to learn from, and just find a way to get your message across as an artist. Find a style and have fun with it while finding the style, because once you find the voice, then the tech and the means are something that you will want to go and learn and be curious about, because you will have something to say.
Like find a passion.
Find a passion.
Find something that
and find philosophy.
you, yeah.
Yeah. What do you want to say as a filmmaker? Why do you want to make films? Do you want to make it just for the money? Then we're going to be stuck in a world full of amusement park filmmakers again.
Yeah, everything you say, I'm just trying to relate it to like other things so that it resonates with people. But
Sure.
what I'm also hearing is find a purpose.
Yes.
You need a purpose. So
Yes.
whatever you do, and I think you're right, because we live in a day and age where you don't have to work that job that you hate
Yes.
to make money.
Yes.
You can actually find a purpose and find something you're passionate about, and you can monetize that if
100%.
you're willing to be patient and put in the work. So that is a really good piece of advice. And then when it comes to the institutions, how do you feel like what role should they play? When students might already be learning some of these advanced
Yes.
tools that we mentioned.
That's a great question. I thought of that just today, in fact. Earlier, in the earlier days, institutions were the only place where knowledge was available, because that's the place where knowledge was kept, essentially in a physical form.
Right.
Right now, that's not the case. Knowledge is available freely everywhere.
It's all
But we need institutions, one, to build, for the kids to build a social circle, a social life, to be able to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And the other is to build a certain discipline once they get into the habit of learning, so that the learning is structured in a way, but not to the extent that it's structured to make you a robot once you graduate from there.
Right. Right. Yeah. Wow. That's really interesting. No, something to think about. Very insightful. So thank you. I don't know. I don't know what role the institution should play, but I do think that I agree with you that there's a social piece to school
Yes.
that kids absolutely need, and we need to obviously support that. But there are some changes we can definitely make.
Sorry, and I'd also like to add that the school is a platform, right? It's a safety net, so for students to go in and experiment.
Right, which you mentioned earlier, right?
Yes.
And we're not, and yeah, unfortunately, we're not doing the best job of that. But I feel like we can do better, and that's where the technology comes into play.
Yes,
If
100%.
we're willing to be open to kids making mistakes under the proper guidance, then they can, in fact.
That's well said. We should be open to kids making mistakes. And I was feeling so sad about it, because I teach soccer here in Toronto.
Okay.
And I was feeling bad because I tried to tell a kid that go for the goal. I trust you. And he said, I don't trust myself.
Oh.
And I'm getting goosebumps. I was
Yeah.
just sad about that. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't have the confidence in himself.
Yeah.
Because we didn't create that safe space for him to go and score.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot there.
Yes.
Oh man. Okay. Okay. On that note, I want to ask you one of my closing questions. Actually, my closing question. I asked every single guest this just to kind of get an idea of where people's heads are at, but also because it helps me. It's sort of like my informal survey that I like to ask people. But what would you say? You're an educator. You also have been a student, so you can answer from the perspective of an educator, from the perspective of a student, or both. It's up to you. What are the most useless and valuable things that you've learned in school and why?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You save this for the last.
Yes, yes. This is always the last question for everybody.
Okay. Let me start with the most valuable.
Yes.
The most valuable piece of advice or the most valuable thing I learned from school essentially is just go and do it.
Mm,
Go and do it first. Make that mistake and then come back to me.
right.
And then I'll teach you how to do it.
Jesus. Okay. No, this is such a good answer.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough to have that person as my mentor, and he's still my mentor. I keep texting that person, and just the fact that he made me do that, I stopped being scared of exploring.
Stop being scared of trying. Stop being scared of just like making mistakes. Like, who
Yep.
cares?
Yep. Who cares? Nobody cares.
Jeez. Okay, that's so good. And then what is some of the most useless? Is there any useless things that you've learned as a student, or are there any useless things?
Useless thing that I learned as a student, I guess wearing a uniform. I guess I always hated that one style of uniform, and especially uniform in India. Uh, I don't understand the fact that we still have the colonial mindset of making kids wear ties and blazers in a country that's tropical, just because we're trying to ape some institution that did it before. I
Oh
mean,
God.
you don't need to do
We
that.
need a whole nother hour to unpack that.
Yes.
But thank you for sharing that, because that is one of those things that we just do over time and nobody ever questions. And it's just like, this is how we did it. So that's how we're just going to continue doing it.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, the question is why. And ultimately, that's what this podcast is about.
100%.
So for those listeners out there, that's what we're doing here. We're asking the question, why? We're not trying to put people in a box of negative or positive, but we're just trying to get to the answer of why we do the things that we do in education. So on that note, thank you very much for being our guest and sharing your experience and your perspective. Much appreciated. And good luck to you on your journey. And I feel like we're going to see some good films from you coming up soon. So, oh yes, if people want to find Rohan, where can they find you?
Well, if people want to find me, they can find me on Instagram, Rohan SKAR work. That's my Instagram handle, and they can also find my website, rohansingikar@rohansingikar.com.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.